Thank you. Afternoon. It's great to be here and hear all the fabulous speakers so far today. No pressure on Scotland, but yeah, we are in a very fortunate position to have the government support and then the funding, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So I'll tell you a bit about the support that we have for circular economy projects in Scotland, and then looking at our approach particularly at the sort of city and regional level, and just some examples of some projects that we've got going just now. So Zero Waste Scotland as an organisation, we've got about 120 members of staff now. You can see our goal here is to accelerate the transition to a circular economy in Scotland. So circular economy really feeds through most of the work that we do. We work, for example, with local authorities, helping them with their recycling, food waste collections, with litter and fly tipping issues. We have the Resource Efficient Scotland programme, so that's working with businesses around how they can be more efficient in use of energy and water and waste. We have some consumer programmes as well, and then our circular economy business support. So in 2016, the Scottish Government published Making Things Last, which is our circular economy strategy, and that, I suppose, drives a lot of the work that we do. It also set out a number of priority sectors, so these are the sectors that are important to Scotland's economy, but also where we feel we can make the greatest impact, and there are a lot of circular opportunities. So those sectors are construction, manufacturing, food and drink in the bioeconomy, and energy infrastructure. So in common with some of the other sectors that we've heard mentioned today from other cities. And just a small blowing of our trumpet, the Scottish Government won a Circulars Award in 2016 at the World Economic Forum, and that was for public sector activity and circular economy. And we also hosted the Circular Economy Hotspot last year, so maybe some of you were there in Glasgow. Yes, thanks, Jim. And that was a really successful event. We were delighted to host that and showcase a bit of what we're doing, because we're probably not as good at showcasing as we should be, so it's something we're working on. So in terms of what the support landscape looks like, so within the circular economy team, I should say that we're funded by Scottish Government and ERDF funding, so a lot of the circular economy work is funded by ERDF, so we're really looking at supporting SME businesses in the main. We have these various programmes, and I've seen some of it when Wayne was speaking earlier on. It's similar to some of the activity that's happening in London. We have the business support service, and that's when we send consultants out to sort of work directly one-to-one with a business. It's quite intensive. They'll work with a business over about a period of 6 months, and that's just to help them develop their circular approach, and we try to be really flexible and with the support that's available for them. That's complemented by the Circular Economy Investment Fund, so that's grant funding that businesses can apply for. A grant of up to £1 million is available, so we are looking for really transformational projects within Scotland. And we're also about to launch some circular innovation workshops, because I think what we realise is there's lots of businesses that are really interested in circular economy now, which is fabulous. There's lots of businesses that maybe have the seed of an idea, but they don't actually know how to progress that idea, how to get it to market and commercialisation. So these workshops will help them develop a bit of a roadmap to do that. And finally, we have the Scottish Circular Economy Business Network. So we administer that, but that's really about industry coming together to solve some circular challenges. And I just put this slide in because the services we have, they don't operate in a silo. There's a lot happening at the background, as you would expect with so many people in the organisation. You know, I've talked about our priority sectors and some of the consumer engagement, but a lot of it is backed by research and evaluation of our activity as well. We're looking at skills for a circular economy, so what skills do we need as we make the transition to a more circular economy? Where are there gaps, and working with stakeholders to plug those gaps, basically. We also do a lot around procurement, and that's in the main supporting the public sector to sort of drive that demand for circularity. In Scotland, we're working with the DOT's kind of a business that we're working with, but I think we're up to about 120, 130 businesses that we've been supporting to develop that circular economy approach across a range of sectors, and from micro size right up to kind of medium sized businesses, and some really innovative ideas are coming through, and they're covering, you know, the full range of circular models, from servitisation to getting more value from a waste resource. And so you can see there it's a bit of what we call central beltitis, so that's Glasgow, that's Edinburgh, and there's sort of less happening further out. So, you know, in terms of moving on to why we've got our sort of city and regional approach, that's one reason for that. There's a lot of rural areas, you know, how do we look at circular economy differently there to how we look at it at a city level? And with, you know, a lot of these businesses, they are within our key sectors. We've got sector specialists, and they'll go out, they'll engage with, you know, a manufacturing business, or they'll engage with an industry body, a trade association, to start to get the message out there and raise awareness of circular economy. But we thought looking at circular economy at that more geographical level, it gives us a different range of stakeholders to engage with, and it starts to you know, build links with the businesses that might not have otherwise have spoken to each other, and some of those sort of horizontal sectors as well. So in terms of the sort of live projects we've got just now, we've got these ones on the map. So in terms of cities, it's Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Dundee and Perth. So that's 6 of the 7 cities in Scotland we're working with, which is great. Some of them we've expanded it out, so it's not just the city, it's a sort of hinterland as well. And we've also got a project in Orkney, which is really interesting because I get a completely different set of challenges there. They don't want to have to ship all their waste off the island, which is what has to happen currently. So it's really a sort of true circular economy in the sense of how can they keep all the resources on the island and keep them circling for as long as possible. Just telling you a little bit about the approach we've taken in these areas. We've broadly taken this sort of 2-stage approach. The first step is to understand what are the circular opportunities in these areas. So we really wanted to tailor it to each area, so it's not one size fits all. So, you know, in Aberdeen they've got a big focus on like the fishing sector, but that's not relevant in Edinburgh. But in Edinburgh they're looking at festivals and events, for example. So we've looked at, you know, the economy in each city or region that we're working in. We've looked at the growth areas in the economy, looked at strategic priorities. So we've looked at city deals and sustainable energy action plans, sustainability policy, economic development policy. And we've kind of layered that with the material flows in the area as well, and done quite a lot of stakeholder engagement, because the people that work in these cities know best what's happening, and that's helped us identify what the opportunities are. So we will still work with any business in any sector, but the advantage of this is it's given us a real focus. So we've got between sort of 5 and 8 key opportunities within each city that we're really trying to target. So the second stage has been the engagement side. So we've got some local business engagement partners that we work with. In most cases it's been the Chamber of Commerce, and that's great for us because they have those established relationships with the business community, so we can capitalise on those. You know, again, they know the local area, they know the businesses and what works and what doesn't work in terms of engagement. I mean, even down to things like in Aberdeen, they have meetings at 7 o'clock or 7:30 in the morning. That's what works up there. It doesn't work somewhere else. So it's down to that very practical level. So what our partners do is firstly just raise awareness of what circular economy is, as we know that's still a big challenge, and what the benefits are for businesses. We're really looking for some collaborative projects in our cities and regions, so they bring businesses together from different sectors and start to support those collaborations. They'll signpost to support, so this is when the link goes back to the support service that we have and the funding, so they'll pass businesses on, make referrals. And finally, they'll support us with some more stakeholder engagement, again, those sort of local stakeholders. And while we've got engaging with a lot of individual businesses, we're now starting to engage more with those other stakeholders to look at how we can really embed circular economy, and we can have that legacy of circular economy in the city. So I've got a couple of examples now, just to sort of bring it to life a little bit, and they're all kind of collaborative ones. This one is about growing mushrooms in coffee grounds, so it's quite a well-known circular example, I suppose. So they're using coffee grounds in sawdust. But what I like about this is the range of partners that are involved, and our business engagement partner kind of work with them at the very early stages, again, to sort of bring them all together and help to move the project forward. So it's bringing in a third sector organisation. They really focuses around community food, so it was about growing mushrooms and teaching people food education and food waste and so on. We've got the technical experts that can actually grow these things. They're going to tap into the district heating network to keep the mushrooms at a nice balmy temperature. We've got the local authority involved in terms of they're basically giving the land that is needed for the containers to grow the mushrooms. And finally, the business improvement district, so engaging with them and all the cafes there to actually collect the coffee grounds to provide that source. So they probably don't all realise they're working on a circular economy project, but it's a good exemplar and it's very replicable as well. Got an example from the Glasgow Coffee Festival last year. They made a commitment to go completely disposable, cup free. So Keep Cup were sponsored the event, and people could either bring their own cups or they could buy or hire a Keep Cup when they were there. Obviously there's a lot of coffee grounds, again you would expect that at a coffee festival. We've got a company called Revive, so they already have a couple of different business models. One, they collect the coffee grounds and dry them out so it can be used as fertiliser. They're also looking at extracting oils from coffee grounds, which can be sold into the cosmetics industry. But for the purposes of this, it was about just the fertiliser side of things, which they then passed on to another local company. I should say these, apart from Keep Cup, they're all basically Glasgow or the surrounding area. So they passed the coffee grounds on to a company called Kabloom, who make these seed bombs. So the seed bomb is basically a paper mache grenade, and it's got some compost, in this case coffee compost, and some seeds in it, and you throw it and flowers grow. They also work with another company called Gilaldi. Jim will probably know what that means, and they made this lip balm called Pure Roaster, and Pure Roaster has a very different meaning in Glasgow as well, but that was another example of using the coffee grounds. And then finally the milk, of course, was provided in glass bottles from a local dairy. And just a few more examples. So one, again, well known, using waste bread to make beer, but that was one of sort of really early successes in the City and Region programme. So that was a microbrewery called Jaw Brew and a baker's called Alds in Glasgow. But they would never normally have crossed paths. It just, we had an event with the Chamber of Commerce. They were both there. We presented this idea. Their ears pricked up and they spoke to each other, and the rest was history. So it was a really good example of, say, bringing businesses together from completely different sectors. The top example here, this is the Churchill Barriers in Orkney. So they're basically causeways that join some of the smaller islands together. But the big blocks, big concrete blocks, basically, that hold the barriers up, that need replaced quite often because I believe the weather's a bit atrocious there sometimes. And it makes sense to manufacture those on the island because it's big concrete blocks. You don't really want to ship them in. So the council was, looking into that. At the same time, the council's collecting glass at curbside. Again, really weighty material that they don't want to have to ship off the islands. So one of the businesses on the islands now crush the glass and use that as the raw material to manufacture the blocks, and then the council buys them back. So it's another good example of the sort of public sector driving circularity through procurement. And the final example down there is it's a shopping centre in Glasgow, another coffee one, but they are taking coffee grounds and using them to fertilise the plants in the shopping centre. But the good thing about this is, they've got maybe about 100 different retailers there, so food businesses and, clothing and so on. And this was just a sort of step into the circular world for them, and it's been successful. So now they've got a whole range of different projects they're going to try, from pop-up reuse shops. They have a big problem with people dumping prams because there's a mother care, so people come in, buy a new pram and leave their old pram. Which I was like, that's one of their biggest waste streams. But they're now working with the pram doctor who'll take the prams back and refurbish them. So there's a few things starting to happen there. So that's like that really micro circular economy region, and what they've got in common is they're all under the one roof. So finally, I mentioned legacy before, so the projects have been successful and we want to continue them for another couple of years. I should say there's a link on our website to all the reports we've published, which is the stage 1, the research in all these cities, and also a link to they're all called circular. So circular Glasgow, circular Edinburgh, circular Tayside and so on. So you can see what they're all doing individually, but we're looking to extend these projects for a couple more years. So continue to facilitate the collaborative projects, but also do more to really embed circularity in local policy. So we have, for example, Glasgow's made a commitment to develop a circular economy route map. Some of our other local authorities are looking at how they can embed circularity. So we want to support them, but to make sure they really understand what it means and that they're doing it for the right reasons and that they have that kind of top level commitment that's required and that's evident in Peterborough to really make sure it's successful. And linked to that, doing more around influencing the public sector and supporting them to drive demand for it through procurement. Again, I talked about working with a range of different local stakeholders, so how they can actually embed circularity into what they do. We've also established a network of CE ambassadors in some of the cities, so again that's just helping with spreading the message far and wide, but translating it as well into what it means for different networks. We're looking at establishing some regional CE hubs or incubation innovation centres in a couple of cities. So for example, we're working with the University of Edinburgh around looking at a circular economy innovation hub there. So these will be actual physical places that will lead on circular projects in the city, so that will definitely bring that legacy element there. And finally, a lot of what we do is around sharing learnings and best practice, particularly with all our partners, what tactics are working around engagement, what's not working and so on. And that's why it's great for me to be here as well and hear what's working in other areas and take that back and share it with our partners. So yeah, there's a lot happening. It's very exciting and it's definitely a growing area for us as well in terms of looking at circular economy at that geographical level. So thank you.